Okay, welcome everyone today. I'm so excited to have Renaye, who is on the ninth round of release, sharing with me. We had a celebration on our private Facebook group yesterday, and I asked Renaye to give voice, some vibration and frequency to it today on our call. And I've asked her if we can capture this in a video and share her experience. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Renaye. First of all, why is it that you were drawn to join something like Release? What spoke to you?
A friend of mine, a really close and dear person to me, had a journey with cancer very recently, and it it just was really clear to me, at least, of my experience of it, was that was more than just a health thing, that had origins in emotions. And I guess being around 10 years behind her in age, it's really put the wind up a lot of people in our community, and it put the wind up me to do the work and dive into all the stuff that you've been avoiding and putting on hold, raising kids and whatever your life entails. So I was looking for a real clearing this year, like 2025 was shedding the skin. And I just wanted to do some excavating, and it's turned out a little different to what I expected, but that was the initial what I'm calling in for the year. And then found you through Instagram during my holidays, and I don't often just jump onto into containers like this. I'm comfortable in them, but I don't jump quickly. I watch for a while. But this one was just a full yes, I'm doing it. I can see how this is going to benefit me and my family. And I'm ready to learn this.
Amazing. Oh, I love that. I love how you found me whilst you had space and time when you
Yeah.
were on holidays. And this is what I try and say to people is most of the people that come and work with me, they go off a feeling and they don't necessarily need all of the details. And the best thing is to let go of expectations. So the focus in release is that I'm teaching you my method, the release process on how to process your emotions. And what we do is try and remember the events and experiences that we've had or the memories where the emotions were first seeded, but maybe didn't have the place, time, and space to be expressed and processed. And so you learn a verbal dialogue and you practice that and you put your transcribed releases on the group for me and I give you feedback. And often there's lots of bits of coaching in there as well. And so you're in this group and you're learning about your personality and how you're going to interact with emotional work, how your body is likely going to respond. And you're seeing what other people are doing as well and the challenges that they're having, but also some of the celebrations. And we've just wrapped up week 6. Can you tell us, what is the sequence of events that happened for you?
So the Wednesday before the call, our calls have been on a Thursday morning, quite early here for me in WA. So the previous day, I'd sat down and watched the chakra teaching and was just pondering it, I guess, and not really being able to apply it. It seemed a little vague, and I had a few questions around it, but was just sitting with what it meant. I had a lot of preconceived ideas around chakras that I've gathered over the years, and it meant kind of letting all that go and taking it a new way. So I was giving myself time to do that. Oh, a bird's just flown into the window.
On again.
And so either that night, and this is where I get a bit hazy on when it was, because I think it was as I was either drifting off to sleep or waking up early the morning of the call, in that I was pondering, responding to a healer that I'd seen last year that had mentioned about my heart chakra, and I'd never gotten back to her, and she'd sent me another prompt, and I was just thinking about that and then merging that with the chakra teaching, and all of these ideas were just kind of flowing in and out of me. And then I kind of thought, what's the earliest experience of feeling my heart going out of balance, for example? And I thought back, and I remembered an instance in uni when my parents had organised a counsellor for me to see. They were concerned about me, and he asked me the question, "Where is the pain?" I can't remember anything else about the session other than him asking, "Where's the pain?" And I said, "My chest." And it was that awareness of, pain is in my chest. And it's like, no, no, it's not that. It's back further. And then I remembered what had happened to lead into me seeing this counsellor and my parents being concerned. Anyhow, third year uni, so 19, almost 20, and we needed to do 3 or 4 months practice, professional practice in a agribusiness of choice. I was studying agribusiness marketing. And we were seated at this business in groups of 3, and then my line manager was behind the glass kind of thing. Anyhow, I didn't need to have much of an interaction with this particular woman day to day, but I went on a road trip with her out to a town in the wheat belt overnight. We had an overnight stay, so I spent a fair bit of time with her. And one of the conversations that we had in that car just broke me, I guess. Like, a lot unravelled from that. And I could see that she was doing things that weren't in alignment. For me, I could see the trouble that she was causing elsewhere. But it was that particular incident that was, the root cause for me. So I was able to trace it to that event and that person. So there was that awareness. But I was looking for a bit of validation. So we went into our call early in the morning, and at the start of the call, you were speaking through asking for signs from the universe. So I asked for a sign that this particular event was the root of my heart chakra imbalance. And then I asked, what kind of sign will that be? And I tend to kind of just get like a hit from the right above my brain. I want to say here, but I don't know what it is, hey, like it's just something. And I got the word long, like with lots of O's. And my mind then just converted that into like a python or a snake. We're in the year of the python, like you just join all the dots. I've actually had something slithering around in my roof. We have an old house, and so I thought I might get a glimpse at this python that's been eating all the mice in the roof.
I love that.
Anyway,
And can I just interrupt this?
yeah, sorry.
Because
Yep.
sometimes we feel like, oh, we're making this up because it's the year of the snake and I've been told that, and maybe it's in my mind, or maybe, I've heard this thing in the roof. And so we try and force what the sign might be and then continue.
Yeah, exactly right. But it was this definite coming in from the right, and that's where I get my hits, and then the mind coming in and talking about it. So I could get that long. I remember thinking, oh, righto. So the call finishes at about 6 a.m. for me. And when I got off the call, I saw my kids were all pretty sorted, getting themselves ready for school. And the pressure was on to reconcile our grain payments, we're farmers, against what grain we'd actually delivered. Like our consultant, our farm consultant, was waiting for that information to finalise budgets, which is late, another story. So I jumped straight into that job without thinking anything about it, just, all right, this needs to be done, or start figuring this out. And realised pretty quickly that there was an anomaly. And we sell grain to a number of different companies. Like we have a marketer, so it's not just one business that we sell grain to. And as we were working through the problem, my husband came into the office, and this, kids had gone on the bus. So a bit of time had passed. Anyhow, he looked out the window in the office. He was sitting there with me and said, "Come and look at this." And there's a goanna just outside the window of the office, and he's still a little, a baby, but he's still really big.
Oh,
This big black goanna, or bungara we call it, was there, and I'm like, what? And so I'm like, that's it. And I explained it all to my husband, and we were together at the time when this all went down with this woman at this company. And it all just clicked into place that the issue with the grain, the anomaly that we're experiencing, the money that we were owed, was the same company that I was working for when I was on professional practice at uni.
mm,
Same
fascinating.
company. So it was almost, well, I guess, if you take that one step further, like I was then receiving back this currency, or we're about to receive back this energy, this currency
So
that
hang on, did you miss a step that you actually did the release?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. The
Okay,
release.
go back a step. So you got the goanna, the long thing, which is your confirmation that yes, this person is the root of the resentment or feelings, emotions in your heart chakra. And
Yeah.
so you then did the release, which you shared with our group.
Yep.
Really beautiful. But what was your experience of the release?
Well, there was nothing that I felt viscerally in my body, which I was okay with. That wasn't an issue. It was kind of good to hear. Her voice was quite sarcastic. You picked that up. It was like, oh, you finally worked, kind of thing. And I hadn't really thought too much about it since I was in my, late teens, early 20s, but just to see it from this lens of this adult that's in front of you now of wow, she was working with a lot of darkness. Yeah, I'm not too sure what more you want me to share about that, but
And that's okay, because I just wanted to touch on, well, the sign from the universe, and then that was your confirmation to do the release, even though you hadn't really thought about this event as being that significant.
yeah,
You did it anyway. You didn't have like this big emotional release. You didn't feel much, but then go on to the next part. Then you found
yeah.
this.
Well, I guess what I did feel was later in the day, just going about my day, like I have this vision of being in the Coles parking lot kind of thing, just noticing that I felt lighter
Okay, cool.
and more joyous. So those feelings, and they were subtle again. That wasn't a big, whiz bang. Suddenly I'm, feeling big feelings. It was just that slight trickling of, I feel lighter today. Like I'm able to handle more that I'm being thrown, that I'm, yeah. And then life goes on and other challenges come up, and I've lost that sense now, but I do recall at the time feeling that sense of lightness through having emptied that out.
Oh, I love that. And I cut you off at the celebration side of things. So
Yeah.
this
So
currency that came back to you.
I was curious to see how long it would take for this money to come back in, and what needed to play out in order for that to come back in.
Hmm.
And I don't think I've actually told you, yes, I didn't share this with the group, is that the money actually come through on our wedding anniversary
Oh,
on the
yes.
Tuesday. And I've only just realised that I was 19 years old when this happened, about to turn 20, and it's our 19th wedding anniversary this year. So just all of those lovely little kind of signs popping in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just so funny to be able to make the connections, but to be aware enough to have and see all of these connections happening. Now, the other thing that I would love to share, because I notice and I love talking about money and money relationship. And you said it was a significant amount of money. So I'm like, how much are we talking? And I said, Renaye, do you mind sharing how much it is? Because I like us to give that energy and to be able to speak about money like it is our friend. And can you share with us how much it was?
Yeah, well, it's around $150,000. So, so it's a lot of money, and 113 has come in, and the only reason that the rest is lagging is that the bookkeeping behind it is challenging, understandably, for them to do. So that will happen in time. I'm trusting of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. This was only last week, and actually to chase this payment and have it land so quickly is incredible. And this is why I love talking about releasing and creating space, because it's all about creating space to attract opportunities and attract stuff beyond what we ever thought possible. And, you do the bookkeeping. Can you talk a little bit more about that and some of the conversations that we've been having?
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess, maybe a back step before we do talk about that is I knew in the moment when this was unearthed that we needed to celebrate it. And that's come off the back of our conversations in the group and watching your Monergy class as well. And it was interesting to watch my husband with that as well. And when it came in, he saw it before I did, and he sent me the message saying, this is a good day at the office, isn't it? Seeing a screenshot of the bank account. So it has changed how we view things, and we haven't traditionally been really a celebratory people, but that is changing.
Yeah, great.
even the small things like this. So thank you for updating our mindset there, Chin.
Yes, and we were
And
talking
back
about
to the
that.
book here.
We were
Sorry.
talking, we were talking about that this morning that, there's a real transition from doing negative releases into the positivity of like the vision for your life. And there's a transition to actually embrace celebration. And sorry, you're going to go into the bookkeeping, but we were talking about money and celebrating money. And sometimes some of us feel shame around it. And I just really love the way you communicated what you were feeling around it. Could you go into that?
Yeah, well, yes, a lot of people can have a lot of wealth and they can also have a lot of debt at the same time. And I guess I feel to explain that, yes, it's $150,000 and it means that we've sold millions of dollars worth of grain. And if you're in this industry and not making millions of dollars out of grain, you're doing something wrong. And the machines cost $1 million each. It's just all relative. So there's that humbleness of, yeah, it's a lot of money, and it's all relative. And at the end of the day, we're all equal. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel that need to be humble and like everyone else, which I guess has come out in further releases today in having issues with authority figures, feeling as though they have more power over you. Like,
Mm.
I find that quite irritating. So I don't like to be that person either.
Yes, yeah. Well, thank you for celebrating in our group, giving voice to it, coming on here as well. Let's move into the bookkeeping aspect because I'm always asking you, like, Renee, what do you actually do? Do you enjoy it? And we talk about personality types and what kind of work you might be better aligned to. But most importantly is like actually loving the work that you do and the energy that you put into it because this money was hiding, and
Yeah.
as you said, it just is a weird course of events that you actually found it and all the events preceding and the work that you did on yourself before it came in.
Yeah, well, there was the celebration of finding the money and also the realization that if I loved what I was doing more, or if I had a bookkeeper, it would have been unearthed a lot earlier.
Mm.
So there's that responsibility factor there as well. So it has given me a kick up the backside.
It's funny because we've been talking in the group, and there's often themes happening between the members or the participants that I can see. I talk a lot about growth and how growing in whatever direction, be it business or personal, requires us to let go of things or delegate stuff. And so often we stay in this low grade of discomfort, even though we know it's not right for us, but we know we can function in it. And so then the fear can become around, well, what if I let go of this? Or realizing actually delegating is going to require work because you have to train the person. But hopefully you've done this level of work. Yes, you've attracted a sum of money. Yes, there's all these things lining up, but you'll also attract the right support who might even be able to do this better than you. Because I remember I used to do my own accounting and bookkeeping way back in the day, tax, and I ended up paying way too much tax. I just didn't understand it. So it was an expensive mistake for me. And then I used to do my own GST as well, even when I had a clinic and a team. And when I finally took on a bookkeeper, I was a bit tense about the money that I'd be handing over, like a few $100s a month. But when she found a GST discrepancy and saved me $7,000 and another 2,000, which I could not get because too much time had passed, I was like, I'm just going to hand it all over to you. I don't need to know about this anymore. You obviously do a better job than me. But we have issues letting go of control in so many areas of our life. But then that can stop us from growing, not just again with business, but the personal, spiritual, emotional growth.
Yeah, I guess the critical question for me right now is like, what do you want? What do you need?
Mm.
And like, they're the hard hitting questions for me. Like, they're the ones that I squirm with. Because once I answer those, it's going to be really clear that I need to get rid of X, Y, Z.
Yeah,
The jobs aren't serving me.
it's so interesting. And I actually wonder if I've heard some of my clients say, well, if I commit to this, or if I actually live out my soul purpose, then it doesn't mean that I need to be on this earth anymore. Almost
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, I thought that's quite profound, as in, well, if I live my soul purpose, then that means that I can die. And I'm like, you know what? You probably wouldn't care about dying because you've like lived out your soul purpose,
Yeah.
you've lived your life, but actually this fear of if I live this, and so therefore I'm not going to, because it means I don't need to be here. So I thought that was a really interesting perspective. And, I talk about patterns and cycles of have a desire, make a decision, commit to it, do the work, get support. Is so many people are afraid of the commitment and the work that it takes. However, if it's in alignment with you, you will find the energy. But it's usually the work that you're doing. This is not necessarily about you, but the work that you're doing that's out of alignment, it drains you. So then when we're living in that world, we find it hard to think that we could possibly work harder but feel more energy.
Yeah, I've got two things I'd love to share with you about that. I dowse, so a pendulum, and I measure energy. So there's a chart that you can measure the life force that's running through you or that you're experiencing. And I've been dowsing my daughter, and then she's gone and hopped on the piano, and the pendulum's just up to a much higher level of chi.
Oh,
And as soon as I'm doing book work, like I just plummet. So I've got a visual of how much it drains, like to the point that I've tried sitting in a pyramid at my desk to try and preserve it, is
I have
what
a
I've done.
friend that's bought one of those pyramids, and I'm like, it's just a bunch of PVC pipe, and you
And
pay
it
for it.
and it does amazing things. Like I've measured that too, like people before and after. It's, better than a Tesla machine and much cheaper. But the second thing I wanted to share is that I think in your introduction, the masterclass that you shared before our release journey, you said that success energy is a big energy to hold.
Mm,
And now that I remember that, it's like that was the thing that I went, oh, I need to learn that. That is something that I need to embody.
yeah, learn to
So
hold.
it's that fear of not of failure, fear of being successful. How do I work through that? And how do I hold success in my world?
Yeah. Well, I would say showing up and sharing this in all the different formats you have over the last few days is part of that journey. And I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people through this story because I am quite secretive about what happens in the release group. Some people would have these amazing amounts of money land, but they don't want their name behind it, because of how people might perceive you because you're making lots of money and are people going to take advantage of me and all these sorts of things. But they're all they're the common thoughts that go through people's minds. And there is a particular mindset to step into to be able to overcome. But that's why I always like people to start with learning how to process your emotions, because every time you do take a new step, new fears, new challenges, new questions will come up. But you can start to have the space to just see how everything is connected and how everything is for you. I do love how you talked about the pyramid, though, because there are a lot of people that will spend money on all of these devices and things and conventional, alternative, energetic, when actually
Yeah.
all they've got to do is step into the version of themselves, and you'll find all of this money that you spent on stuff, you can start to drop it away, or you can hand it over to someone else. Like the power really is within us. I mean, I buy stuff and then I sometimes learn the hard way that I don't use it. And so it's, yeah, always question yourself, like, what do I want? And that's what the release process really reveals as well. What I see is how much difficulty people have in declaring what they want.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess it came up in our call today. Like, imagine if we raised kids and instead of saying, you'll be fine, you'll be okay when something goes wrong, like asking them what they need.
Yeah.
Yeah, far out. It'd be a whole different world.
Well, I love you're sharing this work with your kids as well. And I love the intention of, okay, well, I want to help my family, my partner, my kids, but where do you start? You don't make them do all of this work. You start with yourself. And you can see, like, this is just the beginning. And if if only, hopefully, you continue with this work and just continue to open up the doors. And I've really appreciated interacting with you, and you come across very grounded to me. That's something that I shared on the call. You said that you weren't always this way, but you have been able to handle my questioning and sometimes my assumptions around things. You haven't just sat back. You've explained things. You've clarified. You've helped me to get to know you better. And it's not always just about listening to me and what I have to say. It's like, if it's out of alignment, then I want to hear your perspective as well. So, yeah, we're all the same.
Yeah.
Have the conversation.
Yeah, and that comes with time, hey, like doing and diving into containers that are uncomfortable. My sister has recently come back from a retreat where she felt really challenged, and it was good to be able to give her the feedback of, yep, it does feel that way, and keep doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it will get easier.
Mm, very cool. Is there anything else you want to share?
Not that I'm aware of, but thank you for the opportunity. It's always great to be able to hear these stories. And like I said to you earlier, I can't believe that this is mine either, but it bloody happened.
Yeah, because so many people, actually, with all the case studies where I've been sharing with people for my book, this is what I want to share. They're like, that feels like I'm reading about someone else. And a lot of people wonder if this is possible for them to open these doors. And again, just with your energy, you just seem like you've had this beautiful surrender. The course was not what you expected. And I did say to everyone, just like try and let go as many modalities as you can and just look at this with fresh eyes, because it's not just process your emotions, you're going to feel better. Like, there's energetics with this. It ties into all facets of your life, and ultimately it is about stepping into and creating the life that you desire, and that knowing that you can create this life. It's not just going to land on your lap. Some elements will, but you
Yeah, it
get
takes
stuck
some
in
work.
some. Yeah.
I guess what I've appreciated about it, and I said this to you on the call this morning, is I've loved watching how the container is operated and the boundaries, how they're expressed, and everyone has warning when things are winding up. Like we know what the expectation is, and it allows you to feel safe within it because you know where those boundaries are.
Mm,
And I've really enjoyed, I guess, watching Steph too, and watching her interact with the group and be so supportive. Like that's been something else entirely.
mm,
And reading everyone else's releases, I don't get through all of them, but just quietly celebrating in myself of wow, that person is doing some amazing stuff for themselves and beyond. Yeah, it's humbling just to read that and just to be part of it. Yeah, like I said, you don't need to read everyone's releases, but
mm.
it's just kind of nice to know that they're there and there's other people churning through some, sorry, deep
That's
stuff
okay.
like you. That must be it, hey? That must be the wind up
Fine.
door slam.
Thank you.